The heavy velvet curtain hung before the big top was the last threshold between Lena and the heart of the Hollow Carnival's dark secret. She hesitated a moment, fingers brushing the fabric, feeling the weight of years of dust and silence that had settled over this place. Then, with a deep breath, she pulled the curtain aside and stepped beneath the towering canvas roof. The air inside was thick and stale, touched with the metallic scent of old blood and the faint tang of rusted iron. Shadows twisted and stretched as the flickering light of gas lamps sputtered against battered banners, their colors long since faded, their edges torn and frayed. The cavernous space stretched out before her, a hollow monument to spectacle and loss. Her footsteps echoed faintly on the wooden planks of the ring floor. Around her, the remnants of a forgotten show lay scattered, broken props, toppled chairs, and shattered mirrors catching the dim light and reflecting fractured images of the past. A faint murmur seemed to rise from the rafters, like the ghost of applause echoing through the years. Lena's breath caught, and her sharp eyes scanned the room, searching for any clue that might explain the carnival's sinister heartbeat. In the center of the ring stood a cracked pedestal, dust-coated and overlooked by the peeling portraits of performers long gone. Atop it rested a small leather-bound journal, the cover stained with dark blotches, some old, others fresh. Lena approached cautiously, every nerve alert as she reached for the fragile book. The leather felt cold beneath her fingertips as she opened it, revealing pages yellowed with age and splattered with dried blood. The writing inside was hurried and desperate, scrawled in a hand that trembled with fear and sorrow. Her eyes devoured the words, piecing together a story of sacrifice and despair. The journal belonged to a man once known as the ringmaster, a charismatic showman who had dazzled crowds and commanded the stage with effortless charm. But beneath the bright facade lay a soul slowly consumed by grief and madness. The entries spoke of a terrible bargain made in the carnival's darkest hour, a desperate attempt to save the failing fairground at the cost of humanity itself. The transformation was cruel and irreversible. The showman became a cursed specter, bound eternally to feed on fear and suffering. His face hidden behind a cracked porcelain mask that mirrored the fractures within his own soul. Suddenly, a chill swept through the tent, and a pale shimmer appeared beside Lena. Mara's ghostly form materialized, her translucent figure draped in a faded circus costume that fluttered like mist. She moved silently, her eyes filled with sorrow and warning. Without words, she gestured toward the shadowed corners where the ringmaster's presence loomed, cold and malevolent. Lena felt the weight of Mara's silent plea to heed the warnings, to prepare for the confrontation looming just beyond the veil. As Lena studied the journal, the tent seemed to breathe around her. The faded banners overhead stirred, as though a breathless wind whispered through the canvas walls, though the air remained still. From somewhere deep within the big top, a low, haunting melody began to play, a warped carnival tune that twisted the familiar into something sinister. The music filled the space, wrapping around Lena like a tightening noose, signaling the awakening of the carnival's dark heart and the closing of the circle. With the chilling revelations of the journal and Mara's somber guidance, Lena's resolve hardened. She knew the stakes now. The carnival was not merely a place of twisted spectacle, but a prison of torment fueled by sorrow and fear. The ringmaster's tragic past was the key to breaking the cycle, but the path was fraught with danger. As the shadows lengthened and the music swelled, Lena steeled herself for the inevitable confrontation. The carnival's true nature was no longer a whispered legend, it was her reality, and the blood moon would not wait. "This place," she whispered, closing the journal with a decisive snap, "holds the truth we need. But it also holds a darkness I'm not sure I'm ready to face." Mara's pale eyes met hers, offering a flicker of hope amidst the despair. "You must," the ghost seemed to say, "for all our sakes." Outside, the laughter and screams of the carnival rose anew, a chorus of terror reborn. Beneath the big top, Lena braced herself to uncover the final secrets and confront the ringmaster's haunted soul. The night was far from over, and the true nightmare was only beginning. With every beat of her heart, the carnival's sinister spectacle drew tighter, and Lena's fight for survival entered its darkest chapter yet. The Ferris wheel stood at the far edge of the Hollow Carnival, a towering skeleton against the blood moon's crimson light. Its rusted spokes creaked with the weight of forgotten years, the faded paint peeling under the relentless grasp of time. Yet tonight it stirred to life, turning slowly with a groan that echoed through the midnight air like a dying beast. Lena Harper approached cautiously, her breath shallow and heart pounding in her chest. The air tasted metallic, heavy with the scent of rust and old wood, mingled with the faintest trace of popcorn and cotton candy ghosts of a joy long past. She hesitated at the base of the wheel, the carnival's eerie laughter drifting from the midway in warped, haunting tones. The lights flickered uncertainly, casting dancing shadows that seemed to reach for her. A part of her screamed to turn away, but the memory of her lost brother, swallowed by this cursed place years ago, pushed her forward. She gripped the cold metal railing, the chill biting through her gloves, and stepped into the waiting carriage. The door creaked shut behind her, sealing her inside a cramped cabin, its glass scratched and smeared with the dust of neglect. The mirrors lining the walls caught fragmented reflections of her face, sharp eyes wide with a mix of resolve and dread. As the Ferris wheel began its slow ascent, the carnival below twisted and warped, the world tilting beneath her like a ship caught in a storm. Her stomach lurched, nausea rising as vertigo threatened to unravel her mind. Images flickered in the glass, the face of a boy, pale and frightened, eyes pleading. It was Tommy, the lost child she had vowed to protect. But then the vision shifted, becoming the face of her brother, young and smiling, before dissolving into shadow. The memories clawed at her, raw and relentless. The day he vanished beneath the blood moon, the hollow silence that followed, the whispered rumors she had chased all these years. The laughter of the carnival grew louder, more distorted, as if the rides themselves were feeding on her terror. Suddenly, the Ferris wheel jolted violently, the carriage swinging perilously. Lena gripped the edge, knuckles white, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The sky outside blurred deeper red, and the shadow of the ringmaster stretched long and twisted over the fairground. His porcelain mask fractured in the moonlight, the cracks forming a grotesque smile that chilled her to the bone. His voice whispered through the wind, cold and mocking, threading into her thoughts with venomous ease. "There's no escape, Lena. Fear feeds me. Your screams keep the carnival alive." Panic surged, threatening to drown her in a tide of despair. Her vision blurred as the cabin spun, the mirrors reflecting 1,000 versions of her fear. The Ferris wheel became a cage, the height and motion amplifying the nightmare that gripped her heart. Then, a firm hand clasped hers. Eddie's voice cut through the darkness like a lifeline. "Lena, look at me. You're stronger than this place. We'll get through it together." His steady grip anchored her spiraling mind. She focused on his rough features, the sincerity in his eyes, and the warmth of his presence. Slowly, the nausea ebbed, the visions receded, and the carnival's twisted song softened. As the Ferris wheel crested its peak, Lena drew a shaky breath, the vertigo fading into a cold resolve. The ride still creaked beneath them, a reminder of the carnival's relentless hunger, but now she faced it with a flicker of hope. The night was far from over, and the true battle lay ahead, but for the first time, she knew she had the strength to fight. The carriage descended, lights below flickering like dying stars, and the carnival's laughter softened to a low murmur. The Ferris wheel's embrace loosened its grip, but the memory of its terror lingered, a cruel reminder that the cycle of horror was far from broken. Lena stepped off the ride, her legs unsteady but her spirit unyielding. The blood moon hung low, casting long shadows that whispered promises of dread yet to come. Eddie fell into step beside her, their uneasy alliance forged stronger in the crucible of fear. Together, they turned their gaze toward the heart of the carnival, where the ringmaster waited, his cruel game far from over. The Ferris wheel had tested her limits and nearly claimed her soul, but Lena Harper was no longer just a frightened girl chasing ghosts. She was a survivor ready to face the darkness head-on, and the carnival was hungry for more. The evening had folded itself into a cloak of chilling silence as Lena approached the modest, weathered cottage at the edge of town. The lanterns lining the dusty windows of Mrs. Whitlock's home glowed faintly, casting long shadows that danced like restless spirits against the cracked walls. Lena's heart hammered in her chest, each beat a reminder of the fragile thread she walked between hope and despair. She clutched the worn leather strap of her satchel tightly, the weight of the night's revelations pressing down on her like the heavy fog rolling in from the forgotten hills. Mrs. Whitlock opened the door before Lena could knock, her slender frame silhouetted against the flickering light of a single candle. Silver strands of hair were pulled back into a neat bun, and her round spectacles caught the light as her sharp, pale eyes appraised Lena with quiet intensity. A faint smile, tinged with both warmth and wary sorrow, curved her lips. "Come in, child," she beckoned, her voice soft but steady. "There's much to tell, and little time." Inside, the parlor was a shrine to memory and history. The walls were covered in faded photographs, brittle newspaper clippings, and yellowed pages from old journals, all chronicling the Hollow Carnival's twisted legacy. The scent of aged paper and dust mingled with the faint aroma of lavender and wood smoke, grounding Lena amidst the ghosts of the past. Mrs. Whitlock motioned for Lena to sit by the fire, where a small blaze flickered weakly. "You've come far, and the blood moon is rising higher," she said, her fingers trembling slightly as she reached for a fragile scroll resting on the table. Unfurling it carefully, she revealed a hand-drawn map of the carnival grounds, marked with cryptic symbols and notes in a spidery script. "This, Mrs. Whitlock whispered, is where the heart of the curse lies. The blood moon breathes life into the carnival, but it also traps the souls of the lost, those who wander its grounds, ensnared by their fears and memories. Each scream, each drop of terror, fuels the endless spectacle." Lena traced the jagged lines of the map with a shaking finger, her gaze lingering on a cluster of symbols near the center. "Is this where my brother disappeared?" Mrs. Whitlock nodded slowly, eyes darkening. "Yes. The night he vanished, the blood moon was at its peak. The carnival's power surged, and a new soul was claimed. We've all lost someone to its hunger." The room seemed to grow colder, shadows deepening as if the darkness itself was listening. Mrs. Whitlock's voice dropped to a reverent hush as she recounted the tragic tale of the ringmaster, once a charismatic showman whose hunger for fame and fortune led him to sacrifice his own humanity to preserve the carnival's existence. Now a spectral entity, the ringmaster feeds on fear and suffering, trapped between cruelty and tragic loss beneath the scarlet glow of the blood moon. Lena's breath caught as the weight of the story settled around her like a suffocating shroud. She reached into her satchel and pulled out a faded photograph, worn at the edges a picture of her younger brother, his innocent smile frozen in time. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring the lines between past and present. "I have to stop this," Lena whispered, voice thick with resolve and pain. "I can't let him be lost forever." Mrs. Whitlock placed a gentle hand on Lena's. "Knowledge is your greatest weapon," she said softly. "But beware, the carnival does not surrender its captives easily." As the blood moon's eerie red light seeped through the window panes, Lena felt a surge of determination ignite within her. The path ahead was fraught with peril and shadow, but armed with the truth, she would fight to break the cycle no matter the cost. Outside, the wind whispered through the skeletal remains of the fairground, carrying with it the haunting echo of distant laughter and a promise of terror yet to come. And somewhere, deep within the carnival's heart, the ringmaster watched, his cracked porcelain mask catching the blood moon's glow as his malevolent smile spread wide. The air shifted as the laughter began a slow, rising ripple that echoed through the hollow bones of the abandoned fairground. Lena stood beneath the flickering glow of a broken spotlight, the red wash of the blood moon bleeding through cracks in the tent above her. The silence of the carnival, heavy and expectant, shattered with the ringmaster's chilling cackle, a sound both playful and cruel. Threading through the night like a dark melody. From the shadows, a tall, gaunt figure stepped forward. The tattered edges of his blood-stained red coat whispered against the cracked wooden floor, and his top hat sat crookedly atop his head. His face was hidden behind a porcelain mask, fractured and worn, reflecting the blood moon's glow in jagged shards. The ringmaster's eyes, dark pits beneath the mask's cracks, seemed to pierce straight through Lena, unblinking and merciless. "Welcome back, Lena," he intoned, his voice a silky rasp that curled around her nerves like smoke. "You've been such a faithful visitor, always drawn by the whispers, by the memories. But you never understood. Not truly." Lena's heart hammered, but she forced her voice steady. "What do you want from me?" The ringmaster smiled, though the mask's cracked lips betrayed no warmth. "What I have always desired, your fear, your pain, your screams. They fuel the carnival's eternal dance. And you are the brightest flame yet." He raised a gloved hand, and the carnival around them twisted. The carousel's horses morphed into grotesque creatures, their painted eyes bleeding shadows. The Ferris wheel groaned, its lights flickering erratically, casting long, jagged shadows. The air thickened with the scent of rust and decay, mingled with the faint, sickly sweetness of old cotton candy. Lena's breath caught as the ringmaster's voice dropped to a whisper, weaving through the chaos. "Do you remember your brother? How he vanished beneath the blood moon's glow, how the carnival whispered your name as you searched." Visions swirled before her eyes, fragments of childhood memories, fractured and distorted. The laughter of children, the distant scream that never reached her ears, the hollow ache of loss that had shadowed her steps for years. "You cannot run from the past, Lena," the ringmaster taunted. "It is the chains that bind you here, the fuel for my show." A chill ran down Lena's spine, but beneath the weight of despair, a spark ignited. She clenched her fists, feeling the surge of defiance rise within. "I'm not your prisoner," she said, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "I won't be your fuel." The ringmaster's laughter twisted, sharp and jagged. "Oh, but the game has only just begun." The carnival quaked, the rides groaning as if in response, the lights flickering madly. Lena felt the grip of the past, and the carnival's dark power tighten around her, but her resolve solidified. She would face this nightmare, confront the darkness that fed on her fear, and fight for her chance to escape. As the blood moon climbed higher, casting its sinister glow on the twisted carnival, Lena stood her ground, an ember of courage burning fiercely amid the encroaching shadows. The ringmaster's game was underway, and the stakes had never been higher. The night stretched ahead, filled with terror and uncertainty, but also the flickering hope of resistance. Lena's story, entwined with the carnival's dark heart, was far from over, and the game was just beginning. The Hollow Carnival had transformed into a nightmare more vivid and relentless than Lena had feared. The air itself seemed charged, thickening with a sinister energy that pressed down on her chest like a physical weight. All around her, the carnival rides, the once faded relics of a forgotten joy, had twisted into grotesque parodies of their former selves, writhing with malevolent life. Lena's grip on Tommy tightened as the boy whimpered softly, clutching his threadbare stuffed rabbit with trembling hands. His small body pressed close to hers, seeking comfort from the encroaching darkness. "Stay close," Lena whispered, her voice a mix of reassurance and raw determination. Eddie was just ahead, his eyes darting nervously as he scanned the shifting shadows. The carousel loomed before them, its horses no longer the painted wood of childhood memories, but nightmarish beasts with gnarled limbs and eyes that seemed to bleed darkness. As it spun faster, the screams of unseen victims reverberated through the night, melding with the carnival's spectral laughter. The air was punctuated by the metallic creak of the carousel's ancient gears grinding against unseen forces. "This place feeds off fear," Eddie said grimly, his voice strained. "Every scream, every heartbeat they refuel." Lena swallowed hard and glanced down at Tommy. "We have to keep him calm. If his fear grows, the carnival grows stronger." But the task was nearly impossible. The carnival was alive, a predator sensing its prey's rising panic. The Ferris wheel groaned ominously overhead, its massive frame illuminated by flickering bulbs that cast long, trembling shadows. Each creak and moan seemed to echo Tommy's sobs, amplifying the dread that saturated the air. "We can't let it feed," Lena said, steeling herself. "We have to fight it." Eddie nodded, pulling her toward a narrow path between the stalls, where faded banners fluttered like ghosts in the chilling breeze. The midway twisted and shifted, the carnival itself warping reality, making every turn a perilous gamble. Lena's heart pounded as the shadows stretched, reaching for them like spectral hands. Suddenly, a burst of chilling laughter cut through the chaos. Lena looked up to see the ringmaster, standing on a balcony high above the midway. His porcelain mask gleamed under the blood moon, cracked and stained, yet eerily expressionless. The red of his tattered coat was vibrant against the darkness, a beacon of the horror that had claimed this place. "Welcome back, dear Lena." His voice was a silky menace that seemed to seep into her very bones. "The carnival hungers, and so do I." Fear threatened to overwhelm her, but Lena forced herself to meet his gaze. "I won't let you win." The ringmaster's laughter grew, echoing like a death knell. The carnival responded, the rides thrumming with renewed vigor, their forms twisting into monstrous shapes. The carousel horses reared, the Ferris wheel slowly creaking as if preparing to collapse. Tommy whimpered again, and Lena felt the surge of terror pulse like a dark tide. She pressed a hand to his small back, whispering soothing words she hardly believed herself. "We have to keep moving," Eddie said urgently. "Find the heart of this place, or the carnival will consume us all." Together they plunged deeper into the nightmare, the carnival's hunger growing with every step. Lena's resolve hardened. She could not let this place claim another soul, not Tommy's, not hers. The night stretched on, a relentless ordeal where every moment was a battle against the rising tide of terror. Yet amidst the horror, a fragile ember of hope burned in Lena's heart, a hope that if they could survive this night, they might find a way to end the carnival's reign of terror once and for all. But first, they had to survive the terror reborn. The carousel was the first to strike. As Lena, Eddie, and Tommy approached, the horses' once charming faces melted into snarls and twisted visages, their eyes glowing with a sickly, unnatural light. The wooden beasts creaked and groaned, their movements jerky yet deliberate, as if puppeteered by some unseen, malevolent force. Lena pulled Tommy close, shielding him with her body as the carousel's circular platform began to spin faster and faster. The sound was deafening, a cacophony of metal grinding, wood splintering, and the high-pitched screams of unseen victims trapped within the carnival's eternal nightmare. The air was thick with a metallic tang, the scent of rust and decay mingling with something darker, something that smelled like fear itself. "Hold on!" Eddie shouted over the din, grabbing Lena's arm and pulling her back as the carousel's edge seemed to stretch and warp, reaching for them. The horses lunged, their distorted forms snapping jaws and flailing limbs. Tommy cried out, his small hands clutching Lena's shirt as if it were a lifeline. Lena's heart hammered in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm, knowing panic would feed the carnival's power. "Keep breathing, Tommy," she whispered. "We're here. I won't let anything happen to you." Eddie fought off the phantom horses with a broken carnival baton he had found earlier, its dull metal striking the air with desperate fury. The carousel's motion slowed, the horses retreating with eerie, guttural snarls as if unwilling to lose their prey. Breathing heavily, Lena scanned the midway. The carnival was alive with a turbulent energy, the rides feeding on the residual screams that had built up over countless blood moons. The atmosphere was electric, charged with a malevolent force that made the hairs on her arms stand on end. "We need to get out of here," Eddie said, voice low and urgent. "The longer we stay, the stronger it gets." Lena nodded, lifting Tummy into her arms. The boy was limp with exhaustion and fear, but he clung to her tightly. They moved quickly, weaving through the maze of stalls and twisted attractions. The carnival's lights flickered erratically, casting long shadows that seemed to reach out like claws. The laughter echoed around them, a twisted symphony of madness and despair. At one point, a dense fog rolled in, swallowing the world in a suffocating gray. Lena's breath came in ragged gasps as she felt unseen eyes watching their every step. The carnival was hunting them, and the price of capture was eternal terror. "We can't stop," Lena urged, pushing through the haze. "Not until we find a way out." Eddie glanced back, eyes haunted but resolute. "There's a place the center of the carnival. If we can get there, maybe we can break whatever's feeding this nightmare." Tummy stirred in Lena's arms, his sobs quieting as her voice soothed him. But the boy's fear was a beacon to the carnival's dark heart, and Lena knew the coming hours would test every ounce of their strength and courage. Suddenly, the Ferris wheel loomed ahead, its massive structure creaking and groaning, as if alive. The lights flickered like a dying star, illuminating the twisted metal spokes that reached skyward like skeletal fingers. "That's our next obstacle," Eddie said, grimly. "And it's not going to be easy." As they approached the towering ride, the carnival's laughter swelled, a chorus of madness that promised only one outcome: terror reborn. The ringmaster's presence was a shadow that loomed over them all. His laughter echoed from the balcony above, a cruel serenade that chilled Lena to her core. She could see him clearly now, tall and gaunt, his red coat stained dark with ancient blood, the cracked porcelain mask hiding whatever remnants of humanity he once possessed. "You cannot escape," he called down, voice dripping with venom. "This carnival is eternal, and so is the fear it feeds upon." Lena squared her shoulders, clutching Tummy tighter. "Maybe this time it ends with me." The ringmaster's laughter turned to a low, menacing growl. "We shall see, dear Lena, we shall see." The carnival seemed to shudder with anticipation, the rides twisting and contorting in the growing darkness. The battle for their souls had only just begun. As the blood moon reached its zenith, Lena, Eddie, and Tummy faced the carnival's relentless assault. The rides fed off their terror, growing stronger, more aggressive. Yet within Lena burned a fierce resolve to protect the innocent, to confront the darkness, and to fight for escape. The night stretched on, a crucible of fear and courage, where every scream was both a weapon and a prison. And through it all, the carnival's haunting melody played on a requiem for the lost and a siren call for the next victims. Lena's journey was far from over. But in the depths of the Hollow Carnival, amid the spectacle and the terror, a spark of hope flickered, a promise that even in the darkest nights, dawn might yet break.